Here's your doodle notes on combining like terms. Before we begin, grab a few of your favorite colors so you can have some fun doodling and coloring. It's especially important when you're combining like terms to have a variety of colors so we can color the terms in different colors. So please get your colors first and then resume the video. Okay, I've got my colors. I always like oranges and light blues and greens and pinks and yellows. Okay, so our first term in the vocabulary section, the front number in a coefficient, this coefficient is called the leading coefficient. So let's fill in the first arrow. So the leading coefficient is important because when we go to look at that first term and the one that's leading off, we have to look to see if there's a sign, a positive or a negative in front of it. So in this case, there's no sign in front of the 3. So that indicates that the 3 is positive, and that is going to be important as we move forward. Our next arrow is pointing here. You can see this bracket here, and that's showing the 3x squared. That is a term. So let's fill in the next arrow with the word term. So you'll see we have, in this example, we have 4 terms. We have 3x squared, x, the 2, and the 4x. Those are all the terms. Okay, the next arrow is pointing to the letter X. And you should already be familiar with the name of the letters as we're moving forward in algebra. Those are called variables. So fill in this arrow with the word variable. Now, when we look at an X by itself, if a term is by itself, there is an invisible coefficient. And our invisible coefficient is the number 1. So I'm going to draw a number 1 in here. So if you ever see a variable by itself, there's an invisible 1 in front of it. So now this looks like negative 1x. Moving to our next arrow, or our next vocabulary term, we have just a number, the number 2. When we have a number 2 just all by itself, a plain number, we call that a constant. So we're going to fill in our next arrow with the word constant. And then our last arrow is pointing to the number 4 that's in front of the X. And we've discussed this term, or this vocabulary word before. That 4 is referred to as the coefficient. So we're going to fill in our last arrow with the word coefficient. Next, I'd like you to select a color to shade in the first X. Now this is x squared. That is going to be different than a plain x. So let's take our x squared, I did in teal, you choose your color. But then choose a different color for x and color that in, and here's another x. Okay, so I put my x's in pink. And then the next thing I want you to do is let's box these up or do little puffy clouds here. So our 3x squared has the plus sign in front of it, and that doesn't have any like terms with it. But our negative 1x and our negative 4x, those are like terms. They have the same variable and the same power to the variable, just a plain old x. And then our constant would stand alone. And then we'll talk to you later about how to combine these like terms. Feel free to color in any other thing that you want to on this page. You can color in the title, combining like terms, whatever you need to do to make it more interesting and fun for yourself. Okay, now we're going to fill in these 2 little fill in the blanks right here. It says like terms have the same variable and they have the same degree. So that means they have the same letter of the alphabet, the variable, and the degree means they have the same power or same exponent. So here's your to-do list when you are combining like terms. To do. So you can color that in. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to add any invisible plus signs. So when we have that leading coefficient, we put a plus sign in front of it. You're going to add any invisible ones as coefficients. So if you have an x by itself, you are going to put a 1 in front of it. And then it's very helpful to add color to our like terms. That means they have the same variable and the same degree. So colors will help you match, and combine when we're getting there. And then please feel free to color, doodle, and embellish any key ideas as we move through the video and you have the worksheet in front of you. Okay, moving on, we're going to be focusing on adding like terms. When we're adding like terms, we are sticking with the positive or negative signs that are in front of each term. So take a look at the blender. So it's an idea of like mixing or blending these terms together. If we have a plain old 2m, that is a positive 2m, so put the plus in front of it. If we have a constant, which is just 2, that is a positive 2 or a plus 2. The 8 is a plus 8. The n squared is a plus n squared. The negative 35m is a minus 35m. So we don't put anything in front of it. Negative 6, nothing in front of it. mn, we put a plus in front of it. And down here, the m is a plus in front of it. To write expressions in standard form, we order the terms. We put them in order so that the degree or the power, degree and power are the same equivalent terms. We want the degree to decrease from left to right. The constants are always going to be our last. They're going to come in last. So a constant is a plain regular number like a negative 6 or an 8. Those come last in the list. And we will put our variables in alphabetic order. So you'll see what this means when we get to our examples. Let's look at the try it section. Okay, first let's color code. Let's color code and let's do something with our, remember our lead coefficient, we put a plus sign in front of it. Okay, let's color code the like terms. So I'm going to use orange here for all the y's. And I always take the sign in front of it. And okay, those are the only y's. Then I see that I have xy. So I take the sign in front of that. And I take the sign in front of that. Let's go ahead and put in our invisible ones for our coefficients. Okay, so there should be a 1 here and a 1 here. And let's see what else. I don't have any x's. And let's also think that our constants will go together. Okay, now let's go ahead and put this in order. And what do we want to do first? Alphabetically, we would do our x's before our y's or our xy's. Okay, so we have coming first would be the negative 1x. Okay, so that's done. Now let's combine our y's. So right here. So what is a positive 3 minus 6? So 3 minus 6. That would be negative 3y. And let's put our xy's together, these together. So 12xy plus 1xy, that is 13xy. And then our constants will come last. So -1 plus 4 is a positive 3. So there are no other like terms. We put it in order alphabetically. So this would be our final answer. Combining like terms. So it still looks like a pretty big problem, but that's all we could do to simplify it. Let's try the second example. So our lead coefficient, we'll put a plus sign in front of that. And we can put some ones in front of our variables that are kind of by themselves. And now let's use colors to organize what we have here. So we have plus 4ab here. And if I go to the end here, here's another ab. Those are like terms. And then we have a minus 1a squared and a plus 1a squared. And let me get a different color here. Let's go with orange. We're going to go a minus 1b and a minus 2b. And then this is kind of all by itself. Okay, let's go in alphabetical order. So in this case, A would come first. And the only term with an A is right here. So we have 3A. Okay, that's done. Next comes the B's. And we have a minus 1B. Oh no, let's go, I guess we would go AB next. Well, no, we could do B next. All right, so net minus 1B and minus 2B. That's minus 3B. And let's see. Oh, A squared. This is interesting. A minus 1 and a plus 1, those would cancel out. So that wouldn't even be in our answer. And we have plus 4AB minus 1AB. So this is plus 3AB. So this would be our final answer. Combine like terms. We can't do anything else to simplify this. Okay, here's some more practice in simplifying the like terms. So let's do example 1. I'm eyeing up these W's here. So this W, these would be like terms. And we always take the sign in front of it. So minus 5W and plus 2W, that would go together. I'm going to put a plus sign in front of our lead coefficient. And then the constants would all go together. So all of these would be going together. So let's do our variables first and then our constants. Okay, so negative 5 plus 2 is going to be negative 3W. Okay, so that's put together. And then we'll do our constants. So 3 plus 12. So in yellow we have 3 plus 12 minus 3. So that's 15 minus 3, which is a positive 12 or plus 12. And that would be our final answer. Okay, this one's a little bit tricky because I see a lot of J's. Now we have to be careful here because like terms have the same variable and the same degree or the same exponent. So when I'm looking at my first J, this first J goes with this J back here because those are the same variable and the same exponent, which is no exponent, which is an invisible 1. Let's see. So then J squared would be its own term, so that would match up with this one. I'm coloring that in pink. And then I'll go yellow for J cubed or J to the 3rd power. So those are all like terms. I'm also going to add in our invisible 1s for coefficients and a plus sign in front of our lead coefficient. Okay, did I do everything? All right, now let's circle our like terms and group them. So let's do the pinks first. So this is negative 2j squared plus 1j squared. Those are the like terms. And negative 4j went with negative 1j. And then the other ones didn't have a partner. Okay, now we go from the lead variable with the highest degree. We're going to go alphabetically to simplify. Okay, so our answer will be negative 5j to the third power. That's done. And then let's put our j squared together. So negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1j squared. And then we're going to put our plain old j's together. So that is negative 4 minus 1, which is negative 5j. Okay, so those are done. Did all that. And finally, our constant is 7. So this would be our final answer right here. Okay, example 3 incorporates something called the distributive properties. If you want to write that above. Okay, so if you have the distributive property, you are always going to do that first. You're going to distribute, which means multiply the outside number to the terms inside the parentheses. So we have to do that step first. So this would become 4x minus 12, because I multiplied 4 times x and 4 times 3, or negative 3. Okay, then let's remember to put our invisible ones in here. And okay, let's write everything else down. So we got plus 1x. Okay, now we're going to distribute into the next set of parentheses. So this becomes negative 3x. Negative 1 plus 7 is negative 7. Okay, so step 1 was to distribute. Now we can combine like terms. So I'm going to put my plus sign here. So I see a lot of x's. So 4x plus 1x. Notice how I take the sign when I'm circling. Take the sign in front of it. Okay, let's put our x's together. So 4x plus 1x, that's 5x. 5x minus 3x simplifies to 2x. And then for our constants, negative 12 minus 7. I'm careful here with your negatives or your integers. Negative 12 minus 7 is a negative 19. And that is our simplified answer. So for this one, we had to distribute, use that distributive property, and then combine like terms. Okay, example 4 is a bit challenging, but let's do that distributive property first. Okay, now, when we're distributing, it's multiplication. So there's going to be one little interesting thing that happens in our second set of parentheses. Okay, so let's bring down 2a, or 8a, sorry. All right, here we go. Distribute. Negative a times b is negative ab. Negative a plus 6, or times a positive 6, is a negative 6a. Okay, moving on. 2b times a, that's going to become a 2ba, but I put it alphabetically and call it 2ab. All right, now here we go. This is going to get a little tricky. 2b times b, a negative 2b, that's going to be negative 2b squared. Because this exponent's 1, 1. When the bases are the same and we're multiplying, we keep the base and add the exponent. So that becomes 2b squared. So that's a little twist there, or a blast from 2 chapters ago. Okay, and then our a. I'm going to put in my invisible ones wherever I have coefficients. Okay, that goes there. All right, now let's color code. So put my little plus sign here. All right, here's my A's and my 6 A's. So I take the sign in front of it, and here's another A. So there's all our A's in pink. So if we want to combine those now, we could. It's 8A minus 6A and plus A when we get to there. Let's start with our highest exponent. That's this guy here. Nothing else matches up with that, so I know that negative 2b squared is going to come first, so that's done. All right, let's do our A's again. So 8 minus 6, that's 2a plus another a, that's 3a. So we can put all those together. And then a negative 1, let me do this in orange, negative 1, and then plus 2ab. That's just going to be plus 1ab for our final answer. Okay, so we do our highest power and then alphabetically. Okay, color in and make your notes nice and pretty. If you need a challenge problem, you could add all of the terms that are in that blender, and we can go over that answer with you after you're done.